So, Patrick, what's up in the sky this month, and what is there to look at?
Well, this month there is a lot going on, so let's get into it. We're going to take a look at the evening sky. There are no bright planets, but if you go out around about 10 o'clock, kind of mid-month, you can still see lots of interesting constellations. To the southwest are the constellations of the winter sky. So Orion is still visible, but setting. Gemini is a little bit higher up, and Sirius, brightest star in the night sky, is still visible in Canis Major. But taking center stage to the south are the spring constellations, namely Leo the Lion, which is roughly about 70 degrees above the south, around about 10 p.m. in the evening. Its brightest star is Regulus, and then a little bit lower and to the southeast is Virgo the Maiden with its bright star Spica. And then we have our spring star, which is Arcturus, a reddish star that is the fourth brightest star in the night sky and is the brightest star in the northern celestial hemisphere. So those are things that we can look for in the evening sky this month. We have a treat for you, and that is the Lyrid meteor shower, which occurs the night of the 21st through to the morning of the 22nd. This shower produces roughly about 18 meteors per hour. In the morning, the moon will rise around about 1:28 a.m., and it's a last quarter moon, and that will interfere with observations of the shower. But it's worth looking for the Lyrid meteor shower, which originates from a radiant just above the constellation Lyra the Harp. Look between the northeast and east on the 21st to the 22nd, and you might be rewarded with a few bright meteors and occasional fireballs from this shower. Now, we don't have any planets in the evening, as I mentioned earlier, because they've all shifted to the west of the sun. So they all are now in the early morning sky. So for those of you who are awake in the early morning or go outside roughly about an hour before sunrise, all this month, we're going to be seeing a number of planets in our sky. It's going to be a dance of the planets treat for this month. So we'll start with 3 planets. We saw some of them in the picture that Katie showed with Saturn and Mars, and the brilliant planet Venus is visible in the early morning. And because of our movement in our orbit around the sun, and also the movement of those planets, they also move around the sky. Even though they're millions of miles apart, they form different and beautiful configurations. So if you get up the next day, you notice that Saturn and Mars are now in a close conjunction. They're roughly about a moon's diameter apart, so that's worth looking for in the next few days. And then they're still in close conjunction on the 5th in the early morning, and then they separate on the 6th. So take a look at that and get your cell phones handy and take a picture, and you can see the changes of position of those 2 planets. In addition to these 3 planets, on the 16th, low in the east, Jupiter emerges from the bright glare of the sun and moves into the darker part of the sky and becomes visible. And then we have Saturn and Mars and Venus. All these 4 planets are now strung across the sky almost evenly. This is a great opportunity to look at these planets in the morning, and also joining in on the fun. The moon on the 25th appears below Mars and Saturn. And then on the next day, it's between Venus and Mars. And then if we look through a telescope, as amateur astronomers have been doing, we can get a glimpse of some of these planets. First of all, here is an image taken by an amateur astronomer in South Africa showing Venus last month. Its phase has grown since then. That was last month, it was roughly less than 50% illuminated. This month, it's going to be about 60% illuminated. This is taken in ultraviolet to show some of the clouds. And here is a number of pictures of the planet Mars, taken in red, green, and blue, and infrared. On the left are the red, green, and blue combinations that give you a nice color picture of Mars showing its polar cap. Jupiter, this was taken in February, so this is what Jupiter looks like. If you were to look through a telescope, moderate size, you can see the cloud bands, equatorial cloud bands, and occasionally the red spot. And of course, beautiful ring planet Saturn. This was taken in infrared, showing the temperature that's emitted from planet Saturn. So very beautiful sight through the telescope. Going back to the 27th, the moon has moved just below Jupiter and Venus. And we're going to take a closer look at this area here because this is coming up for a very beautiful conjunction and not to be missed. I did a rendering of this, and this is what it might look like if you were to go out early morning on the 27th. The 26-day-old waning crescent moon with its Earthshine will be visible. And then above it, the brilliant planet Venus to the right, and to the left, the planet Jupiter. As we watch each morning, something interesting is going to happen between Jupiter and Venus. The next day, on the 28th, the moon is gone, but you notice that Jupiter and Venus are getting closer. And on the 29th, even closer. And finally, a very close conjunction on the 30th at the end of this month between Jupiter and Venus. This is definitely the sight not to be missed. Jupiter and Venus will be roughly 80% of the full moon's diameter apart. So we're a little bit closer than the diameter of the full moon. An incredible sight, definitely not to be missed. So mark that down on your calendars. Now, what do we have this month for our lunar phases? Well, first quarter is on the 8th, full moon is on the 16th, last quarter is on the 23rd, and new moon is on the 30th. So that's what we have this month. So definitely go out and watch the dance of the planets in the morning sky.